It was really interesting to see the mixes of like the blend of styles you used to capture kind of this portrait of a high school. What exactly was your thought process in choosing what you were going to do? Because you almost have like an Errol Morris and Tirotron, like to the camera interviews, but then you also have these really lyrical, kind of slow-mo, verite kind of stuff going on. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
I wanted to translate the state of mind, like what is their experience as a teenager, and to get close from their point of view, like how they see life, and for that, for me, it was important to give them like a lot of space. So that's why I choose to do the interview with like their faces, and in the big screen, it's like giant faces, and to have this straight look up in the camera, so then you can have a strong link with the audience and the protagonist. And for the slow motion, it was just in order to translate like a feeling, I guess, a feeling of discomfort and of like pressure and of like something that you can't explain by word, but just with images. And yeah, I was inspired by what they were saying in the interviews, and that's how I create those moments. And with my own experience, which is not far away of my teenagerhood, I remember like going to see the football game, and all like that expectation from the public, from us, and we were all looking at those guys who are like the coolest guys, and all that pressure that they can feel at that moment, and that they can feel as a teenager. I wanted to represent that, and I think documentary is a good way to explore different way of telling stories, because we were in a small crew, and we have a lot of day of shooting, so we're just exploring slow motion, and I discovered that at some point it was meaningful, especially like when we did the slow motion in the school. We were just walking in the school, and it's like really crowded, the school, and everything goes really fast. When the bell is ringing, everybody's running, and we tried the slow motion, and at some point we saw, we captured student looking straight to the camera again, and I felt that at that point that was meaningful, because it can reveal how you feel as a teenager being looking at in the high school, and where everybody is looking at each other. So yeah, that was an exploration that ended up with something, I guess, for me was meaningful. So yeah, I try to get a good balance of it. I don't know if that works, but
now this was your high school, right?
Yeah.
So what made you want to go back to this place where you've been away for how long?
10 years. Yeah,
so
more than 12 years.
What made you want to go back?
Because it's a small village. Everybody knows it's not a village, actually. It's like a city, but it feels like a small village. Everybody knows each other. And
how many students are there?
It's there's 1,200 students, and it was easier for me because I know people from that school and the direction.
So is that how you actually chose some of the kids you ended up interviewing?
No, not at all. And so I got a great access because I know people from that school, and they allowed me to get in. And also because I think that small town has something cinematographic, and also because it's an area, like we often talk about like a big city like Montreal and about Montreal, but we don't usually talk about this little town because it got nothing special, but for me it's still special. And the thing there was they were surprised that I wanted to talk about them because nobody cared about them, nobody cared about that little town. And I think that was interesting to care about something that usually nobody...
It's overlooked, maybe.
Yeah. That was a long process. What I did is, first when I got a project, I teamed up with the photograph that made the photographic project. And during 2 weeks, we went to every classes. We met every student. We were there like for 1 hour explaining the photographic project, and I was explaining the documentary project. And I give to the student a questionnaire with open question, and so they have to write down their thoughts. And I ended up with like 1,200 questionnaire that I read, and from that I made a selection of about like 60 questionnaire, and I contact every student by Facebook. So if Facebook helped me with that, I can get in touch with them like directly.
Every kid had a Facebook.
A lot of them, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I asked them, do you want to do an interview with me? And some of them say no, some of them say yes. So I've made 45 interviews, and from those interviews, then I selected like 5 main characters that I wanted to go to film outside school. So that was the process.
Right. A lot of the kids talk about like how outside of school is more important to them than being in school, like working on art projects or working on like climbing or like self-expression.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting to that point with them? Like, did that come out of just the raw interviews as like a theme, or how did you end up including that as like? To me, it was like one of the major themes.
Oh yeah. I guess it's because they are obligated to go to attend school. They have the same class as the other students, so it's hard to define yourself in that system because everybody got the same class and you're obligated to go there, and you're in a position where you sit down and listen to an adult to learn stuff. So you're not there to express yourself or to eat things or to shape your life. And when they get out of school, so then they can do things that define themselves, where they and release the pressure of school, I guess. So I thought it was interesting because it defines the character, and I guess since they are obligated to go to school, so they will not like define themselves. But still, there's some character for me, like the team that organized the photographic project. Through that project, you can see that they get something from it. They get something from the institution, from inside the school. So it really depends on the individual. Some of them are accomplish themselves through school, and some of them it happens outside school.
Now, the photo project was yours, or was it those students were developing the photo project?
In fact, it was photograph of that little town, which is called Privé, who organized it, but it's from another bigger project, which is called Inside Out project, that happens all around the world. and she decided to do it at that school because for basically the same reason that I was doing the documentary, because she thought that those kids need to be we need to tell them that they are important. And so we meet up like 1 year before she did it for the project, and I was doing my research for the documentary, and we talked together, and I said, oh, that would be great if you do that project when I'm doing the documentary, so I can see kids involved in the project, like, because in the documentary it's interesting to see protagonists in action, just not talking about stuff, but seeing them involved in an experience. And yeah, so finally she decided to do the project the same year that I was doing the documentary, and I was involved in the project to help her doing that, but she was leading that. And she included kids from school, so it became also their project as part of a class. So they were really involved into that project. Yeah, so that's what.
I thought it was like a really nice like thematic tie-in for the arts area of what the film is about.
Yeah.
But they talk, like, strangely, they talk about like risk and like, or not so much talk about, but when I was watching it, they seemed like they were very free in terms of their like physicality and risk-taking in just general life, like dabbling in getting in trouble and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the film is almost talking about how they don't take as many risks socially in school as they will when they're adults.
Mm.
Is that something you thought of when you were making it, or?
You know, I think it's something to conceptualize things and talking about your value and actually seeing you in action with your peers. And so some of them were really open-minded and like in their interview and things stuff as I don't want to be like, I don't want to be a sheep in the crowd, I don't want, but for them it's their value, it's their imaginary world, it's how they project themselves, like the best of themselves. And then when you see them in action, sometimes they are not able to be that person yet. Maybe it will happen eventually. But I think it's interesting seeing them, that both sides, because you know it's human. You know, you're not always consequent. Like, I'm telling you that, and I'm really like that in my life, and for me it's just like being I don't know, realistic about who they are, and I hope they will see it, and maybe it will make them think about what they were saying and what they are actually, what they are now.
How long did the interviews take? Like, how much time did you spend with each kid?
Around 1 hour. Yeah, and sometimes it was shorter.
So that's not very much time to develop that kind of honesty on camera.
Yeah, I was really astonished how they were like really open about what they were living. And as I said in the Q&A after the screening, it's surprising because as our Maurice, like I got this huge box in front of a camera with a mirror that reflects my face, so then they can look straight to the camera because they see my face. But it's a huge camera, and you put like a large box in front of them, so it's terrifying. Like, but still, I think they were happy to talk about what they live, and they were happy to be chosen for the interview, so they get a sense of like their voice are meaningful. And
what kind of stuff did you ask them about?
It depends on who I have in front of the camera, but I have like open question like do you feel comfortable in school? Where do you see you like in 10 years? One of my questions. What you do in life, and like it's hard to remember because I try to be as open as possible with my question, and just like if I see that some of them was really sticking to a point, I was like developing more in that sense after in the interview, because I wanted them to feel like they have a conversation with someone. I didn't want them to feel like they are answering questions in order for them to be more comfortable. So
you can see some reservations in some of them, but most of them are like very genuine for the whole time.
Yeah, it depends. I can see that some of them are really shy in their interview. I can see it because I've seen the whole interview, and sometimes at the beginning it was more hard, but we try to choose also moments in the interview where they feel comfortable and they feel confident, because I wanted to portray them in a good way. I didn't want to have an image of them not being well or being shy. So I guess that the moments of the interview that we end up with were good moments.
How long was the actual shoot?
We started in February 2014, and our very last day was in March 2015, but it was just one day because we missed stuff, and basically it was like from February to June with the ball, prom ball.
It feels like almost like a whole semester or something like that.
Yeah, it was from February and June, and the funny fact is when we announced the project, that sequence in the film, it was in February, but in the film, like right after the announce, you can see they go out of school and it's summertime, but in fact it was in February, but we didn't have that kind of shot in February, so it just seems like an endless summer, but we're in Canada, so that's not the case. We got 4 seasons, but at some point I said, oh, it doesn't matter, it's not the main thing.
How involved were you in the editing process?
I was really involved because in documentary you have to rewrite the story with what you got, and we had so much material. We got like up to 100 hours material, so, and like with 45 hours of interview, we got a lot of stuff. And first, the editor started to work on the material right in the beginning when we were shooting, but she worked at that time part-time because she got another job, so she can listen to all the interview and make selection, and we started working together around August and September more closely, and from September until April. It was really a long process, really.
How different is the film from what you imagined it to be?
It depends when, because I envisioned the film when I get the financing and I have to write a kind of script, and it was totally different. It was more talking about bullying at that time. And then when I get involved in the shooting with the photographic project, I was more about the self-esteem, because I thought that with the photography project it talks about that, and I thought at that point that it will be more following that project, but I didn't have the interviews yet. So it's when I get the interview, when I listen to what they said, it's really at that point that I can say, okay, maybe it's gonna be more open about different subjects, and it depends. You know, it's a long process. The editing it's always rewriting the script in some way, and until the end, like with cutscene, and it's documentary, so your subject is telling you the story you have to tell in some way, because it's from them. You take that's the material. So
how did you end up choosing the kids you were going out and filming with, like out and about?
It was really with the interview, because some of them was kind of they got like great interview, some of them got a great little moment. For example, as I said yesterday, the guy who talked about Alabama is more in Alabama.
He was one of my favorite parts of the movie, actually, just that little bit with him.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he seems like so genuine about it, and it's so left field. Like.
Yeah. And it was a short interview for like 15 minutes, but he got that line, another line. I was like, oh, he's really touching. So at that, yeah, I knew. Like for example, with Jordan or Guillaume, Jordan the guy who's making parkour, and Guillaume the guy with the guitar. They were really good in the interview, really good. I have a hard time to cut their interview because it's like monologue. They were like going on and being really eloquent and really like putting some deep deep thinking about what is being a teen, and yeah, and I have to follow them outside school and outside the interview, because I knew that they will become eventually character, because I knew that their interview was so rich that they will have a bigger place in the film. And yeah, when Jordan talked about the fact that he's only comfortable when he's on a rooftop and looking at the sky, for me the image was too strong. At that point I was just dreaming of being there with him, and so I knew right away that I wanted to have those moments with him. And Justine, the girl who goes to the prom, when I did my research before shooting, I did a workshop during 1 year with students in that school to figure it out what kind of movie I would like to make. And Justine was one of my students on the way with the workshop. And I really like her, and she was really passionate about cinema. She was really interested into all that, and I found her funny, and so I just asked her on Facebook for the prom. Oh, can I go with you on the prom? And it was more easy because we have already a link together. And, yeah.
I also really like the musical choices that you used.
Yeah.
What was like how much was music a part of like the planning process, or was that all like in post that you were just kind of finding things?
Yeah, I was really scared about the musical process. because I'm not used to do music at all. Like my previous short, which is called The Cut, it's like there's no music at all. One sequence shot and no music. It's just like really. So I'm not the kind of filmmaker who puts a lot of music in my. I don't put a lot of music in my work usually, but it was also a long process because for me the music, I wanted to be like really to blend it with the sound editing and the person who was working with the sound, and it's what happened at some point, like for the football scene where it's all in the slow motion. You can't say when it's music and when it's sound editing at some point, because we use like sound and we ask the musician to have that kind of sound and bring us some notes, and
yeah, I mean, how late?
And it was really a long process, and we worked closely together. I didn't want to have a feeling of like, oh, there is the music starting and there's the music that stops. So, yeah, it was a lot of collaboration. And yeah.
Did you look at other like teen films or films about high schools in preparation to make this film? Because in a lot of ways, like I could see like reference points or like thoughts from other films. Maybe that's just me having seen lots of films, but I don't know.
Yes. I'm very much interested into that specific age, teenagerhood, and I was really interested to give them a voice, because often I think that when we talk about teenagerhood, it's from an adult point of view, and I want to avoid the cliche of like being a teenager. I wanted to make them look like intelligent and eloquent and everything. But to answer your question, yeah, of course, like when I was a teenager myself, I watched so much teenager movie. And I really liked like Boyhood, and I like when the filmmaker decide to embrace a point of view and embrace like a teen point of view or a child point of view, or just to make us see the world in another perspective. I was really influenced by some filmmaker, documentary filmmaker. I saw recently The Machine Which Makes Everything Disappear.
I was actually going to ask you about that, because there's some shots, the interview shots specifically with like the blue paneling behind, and I specifically thought of that film because she interviews kids in front of like a, just a wall.
But you know, I've seen that after I was shooting, so it was like I was talking to someone I've met in Montreal, a documentary filmmaker, was talking about my project and the fact that I'm doing interview and that I want to follow some of them after the interview in their life. And she was talking about that film, and I never heard of that. And when I saw that film, I was like completely blown away. It was so powerful, the interview, and like, and also for me, it was important at some point to feel that, to see the process of the interview. That's why the film begins with them having their seats and just prepare themselves, because it's some kind of performance in a way. And she's also the director of that movie, also using this in the movie, and it's really conceptual. And I thought that this documentary is so cinematographic. And I was like, how come she, like, it seems like a fiction, but not just a fiction, like a really beautiful fiction, really, really beautiful. So yeah, I was really inspired by her work. And but I was doing I've already shot my movie, so it was a weird feeling. And also I was inspired by another documentary that premiered at Sundance in 2014 when I was there with my short The Cup. And the name is Rich Hill. And again, I think it was really cinematographic and it gave voice to for teenager in poor town, and it touches me also because Sorel-Tracy, it's a poor area in some way, but even though it's not an issue in the movie, for me, I have it in mind. And it was important for me to give them a voice because I knew that it's a poor area and some of them are struggling to have a good life.
I kind of felt like that in the coloration of the film. Like there's almost like a gray sheen over everything. Like,
yeah.
How much time did you spend on color or think about color while you were shooting?
We were, when you shoot like in some way in log, which is nice. It's just it's really flat. So then it's not contrast at all. So then in the color correction you can choose where you want to contrast. But I've seen those images, those flat images, for like 1 year and a half. And after when we put contrast, I was like, no, we can't do that because I get used to that kind of image. And I thought also that it seems like in some way out of time. It felt like a souvenir and a reminiscence, and it felt like
almost like a memory.
A memory, yeah. I thought it was interesting. And yeah, I don't know. The color corrector told me, "Are you sure you want to go that way? Because you usually don't do that."